Gamescom 2025 is now very much over and has been for a couple weeks now, but there was one game I got to play there that I wanted to talk a little bit more of because in many ways it was very impressive, but in other ways there was definitely some issues. I'm talking about Phantom Blade Zero, or as they say in Norway, Phantom Blade So I only got to play this on a high-end PC. Alex just observed me playing this on a high PC.
Yes.
And that's why he's here to talk about it with me.
Yeah, this is one of the games I was looking at another product while you were playing this one originally, and then I kind of joined in at the very end to watch you playing it. And yes, it's a pretty interesting looking thing, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes, indeed. And apparently I was like one of two people to actually finish the demo, so I can at least show the whole thing here.
Amazing.
And as you might guess from walking into it, it is very much a Souls-like.
Right.
There's definitely some differences, some of which I've probably forgotten, but the core action is, you're this dude, you've got your healing items, you've got light and strong attacks, you've got dodging, parrying, all that good stuff. But it is very specifically designed to showcase the more Chinese-style blade ballet, if you will, a form of martial arts. That's not the actual name, but they put a lot of effort into choreography and sort of creating these very smooth, fluid animations that feel realistic and true to sort of like classic martial arts films and classic Chinese films.
Definitely.
And I'm going to say they pulled it off very well. The character animation is indeed top tier. The flowing cloths, just the movement. It's a gorgeous game in motion.
Yes.
So that is to be said. And the game actually starts in sort of a rainy castle area, and you're able to explore this area, making your way eventually to the boss. So yeah, it is pretty much what I thought it would be, and I think it plays extremely well. But then there's the tech side.
Right.
And so obviously, being that we played this at an NVIDIA event, this was running on a high-spec PC. I take that, like others, it was probably a 5090 powered PC.
I think so. I think almost every single PC there, other than the laptops, was 5090 powered because, NVIDIA wants to show off the best of the best of the best, sir.
And they did.
And they do. And here, the demo, the video you're seeing right now, I believe it was being played, curiously though, at 1440p. I think that's the recording we have here, right? It's limited.
That's what the monitor they were using at that station.
Right.
They were like 1440p high refresh rate panels.
Yeah, true. So that's what you're seeing right here. So it is not technically, in terms of resolution, the best you could get out there, but it does appear to be using one of the latest versions of DLSS. And technologically, this game's kind of interesting because it's like both following the pack as well as doing its own thing, right, John? Like it is Unreal Engine, but at the same time, it doesn't appear to be using Lumen or virtual shadow maps. Based upon what we can see on screen here, as well as the press release leading up to the game's full release, the game appears to be using Unreal Engine, I think maybe 5, with ray-traced shadows and ray-traced reflections. And you can see that in the footage here. So whatever they're doing for the global illumination or direct lighting appears to be more of a, I don't know, like a classical UE4 style. It does look like baked lighting to me, the rest of it.
Yeah, that's my guess as well, as the lighting definitely looked baked. And this is a challenging scene for that because it is not one full of very bright direct light.
Right.
So it's sort of like an ambient overcast scenario. That means you rely a lot on indirect lighting, so which can be baked out very well, but that also requires a significant amount of storage space, and as a result, you often see light maps sort of like toned down in terms of clarity, but also holes in them and issues. And
Right.
yeah, you definitely see areas that feel like they should be properly shadowed that are a bit glowy, as
Definitely.
is often the case with light maps.
Yeah.
But I can't say it looks bad or anything, and presumably, when this does ship on consoles especially, that should at least allow them to hit higher frame rates
Oh, definitely.
without sacrificing the visuals. So like, I think the recent Black Myth Wukong Xbox port, specifically on Series S, really showcases what happens when you build a game around Lumen, but then you don't actually use it.
Yeah.
Because just turning it off, there was no real proper fallback, and the results are ugly. Where here, obviously built with light maps in mind, it does still actually manage to look very good.
Yeah, and the shadows particularly do look really great. They don't break up that often in this demo. Yeah, they're great. The reflections, interestingly, I mean, maybe this will all be tweakable in the final product, but they do only seem to appear to apply to things like puddles and whatnot, or bodies of water. Whereas, it could technically apply to some of the like rougher materials, but maybe for performance reasons, it's not doing that, because it is very expensive to do that. And generally, at least in UE games, it's been extremely expensive to do that.
Yeah.
But
it is fully adjustable, of course, right?
Yeah.
But as we've seen, like with your recent Metal Gear Solid Delta tests, changing the roughness value, while it does look awesome, can have a serious impact on performance, even on high-end rigs. So.
Definitely. I was watching this footage, and another thing that I was really curious about, because it is using Unreal, but I was like, are they going to use nanite, or what are they going to use? So I've been watching through this footage, and one thing I noticed is you do see traditional LODs on the plants, but when running around the environment, I don't know, John. I don't think it's even a artifact of your footage, but I was actually having trouble seeing level of detail transitions on the opaque geometry here. I don't know, maybe a fine-tooth comb through the footage could reveal it, but I don't know. Maybe this is actually using nanite. I'm not exactly certain.
So you're right. It is difficult to say, and I noticed that as well, that there's no, outside of the foliage, where we know early UE5 stuff couldn't use nanite for foliage.
True that.
The actual more like solid scenery does not seem to showcase visible LOD transitions much at all, if any. But as we know very well, that doesn't necessarily mean they're using this virtualized geometry system, right? Like
Definitely
you look
not,
at Doom: The Dark Ages, they're not using anything like nanite. Their own they did not do virtualized geometry, but they just did very, very carefully placed LOD transitions in like extremely, like very carefully designed maps to avoid any sort of like visible or minimize the visible sort of LOD changes.
True.
So we know it can be done. And that's what makes this interesting, because like you look at Wukong, Black Myth Wukong, and that was definitely like a game where they're like, okay, we're going to use everything that Unreal has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And that did come with a pretty serious performance cost, due in part to that being older Unreal 5, of course, which was much slower. This seems to have taken a different approach. In fact, by picking and choosing which RT effects are in use, it almost feels like an Unreal Engine 4 kind of generation game.
It does, yeah.
Right?
I'd agree with that. Hopefully, though, with the benefits of whatever UE5 brings to the table in terms of being more multi-threaded. We'll have to see all about that when the game comes out. But, John, you were playing this live. What was the performance like? I know you were on a high-end rig at 1440p, but what was it like experientially?
So that's I'll be interested to see how performance ends up being, because this one did have a few little minor stutters, and the frame rate was not perfect, but it was also kind of uncapped. And actually in this footage, it looks a little bit worse than it does in person, because everything at the show was recorded with NVIDIA Share.
Right.
So, like the built-in recorder, which if you're at a different refresh rate than whatever, than like 60 hertz or whatever they were capturing at, you end up with some frame persistence issues. And I think we're seeing that sort of exacerbated here.
I agree, yeah.
But, I mean, I really can't, for an in progress, in development game, it's hard. You can't judge anything, and I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say it played fine on that.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly will be interesting to see if they can hit decent performance on consoles, since we know that it's not a given.
No.
I keep thinking back to Black Myth, but again, that was
yeah.
using all the UE5 features, and boy, that didn't run great. I'm hopeful that that they've made these choices specifically to avoid that.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, visually speaking, I love how this looks. I think this is a very handsome game overall. The amount of just granular detail in the scene is really nice. It's the kind of thing you see and you're like, man, even though From Software has great art direction, like, if only their engine chops were like anywhere close to this.
Yeah.
Like,
the detail is here is very high. Just even like looking at the cobblestone beneath everyone's feet, it's like they've got all this layering going on there, like the various depth differences, like split up by puddles. There's barely any place like that in a From Software game in terms of detail.
right.
Yeah, it's just, I really do wish it was like that for them too. But here they do seem to be using the Unreal Engine to its fullest to maintain such perfect depth and stuff like that.
And that's something I love about this modern generation of games, and what some of these designers are able to do is essentially they've eliminated the tiling effect.
Yeah.
Where, you see like a flat surface or like a wall or a floor or something where it just sort of like repeats over and over again, and your eye immediately picks up on it. You're like, oh man, that does not look natural to the eye. Where here they've made sure that every single like inch of the game world has its own sort of unique look to it,
True that.
where it makes it look super detailed, lived in, and old, if you will. Right.
Yeah.
So running down here by the sea, you see like every single floorboard just like warped and moving in different direction, like nothing really layered. It all looks kind of kit bashed together, but in a really slick way.
Yeah.
I love it.
It'll be interesting to see, though, in the end, when we do get our hands on the final product, what aspects and which version of Unreal this is using, because it does look pretty unique. And it was actually the second game we saw at that NVIDIA booth event that was using Unreal 5 in a non-standard way with its own custom work in it. We also saw Black State, another game that doesn't use Lumen, uses its own ray tracing technology actually, and manages to run really well as a result in terms of like high frame rate. And this maybe will be following a similar route. We've seen some pretty cool work from Chinese developers over the last couple of years, and this is looking to be something we'll definitely have to highlight on the channel when it does come out.
Right. There was also Cinder City,
Yeah.
which was a Korean developed game, which I had some fun playing it, I have to say. But what was interesting is that they told us in the presentation at the beginning, like, oh, this doesn't have any ray tracing in it, but it will.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, no ray tracing. And I was like, so then I sat down to play it. I'm like, wait a minute. They're using like lumen reflection here. And I'm like, even if it is the SDF reflection, that's still like a form of ray tracing, right?
Yeah, it is.
So I'm like, wait, you guys are using the lumen here, like at least lumen reflection, like that is ray tracing. It's like, oh no, there's no ray tracing in the game.
Yeah.
I'm like, but there is.
Yeah, there's this monopoly on words. It's not very cool, actually.
So that was another nice looking game, but not as nice as Phantom Blade. Which, yeah, even though we're seeing a ton of these types of like Souls-like games, I would say this one plays a bit differently overall in that it's like if you took a Souls-like concept but married it with more, I don't know, Ninja Gaiden-esque combat,
Yeah.
where everything's just faster and more agile. From Software games, mostly, except for maybe Sekiro, we're more focused on very sort of like slower attacks and anticipation, where this moves more like a fast action game.
Yeah, you can see that. Also, some of the like cool movement tech in the game, that stuff is usually not seen, other than Sekiro, like you just mentioned, in any of the From Software titles. I mean, personally, we can all talk about this. John loves these kind of games. I'm kind of tired of them at this point in time. But if it is artistically sound, gosh darn it, I will definitely load it up.
Heck yeah, Alex. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this one. I thought it was cool looking, promising. I just wanted to talk a little bit about it because we have this nice footage here. And yeah, I'll be curious to see how it runs across the different consoles and what it ends up like in terms of polish levels. And it could be very well received. And given that Sony revealed it, I'm curious if it has any ties to them in a way that something like Stellar Blade did.
Oh yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I need to investigate that. It may or may not. I'm not sure. But I think it was first shown at a State of Play, so
yeah,
wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, it was actually first shown on a State of Play, I believe. Yeah, very true. Yeah.
But anyway, thanks for joining me, Alex.
Anytime there, John.
And thank you for watching this video. And of course, we'll see you next time.